a long time.
Make it black, maybe.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
All right.
Send me that in spray paint.
So today we're starting chapter 15.
Sacrifice in a way.
But you don't. Hi.
15, 16, and 17. Those are the next 3 chapters we're going to cover. All of them are about animals. So we're moving out of the plant kingdom into the animal kingdom. So today is really just...
I was going to ask, do you know where Miss Wylick is? Because weren't you with her just a minute ago? They were looking for her.
No, it wasn't. But she went. She went that
Okay,
way.
thank you. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's no
We're
problem.
shooting a movie.
We're shooting people at
Hello.
This is featuring a library.
Oh, okay. All right.
I only say hi to the camera. You're on TV.
have something for that, but I don't.
Finally stopped in the teen experience.
I thought pink dress was velvet.
No.
What do we really?
I'd wear it.
Yes.
Wow, really, Robbins?
I look like you featuring this black Barbie.
Okay. We'll try this again. So this first section is really just an introduction to the animal kingdom. What you're learning today will apply to all of the chapters to follow. Okay? So it's just really some introductory material that is important to note. First of all, the life processes. By the way, anyone know what the study of animals is called?
Zoology.
Zoology, yes, zoology, not zoology.
That's impressive.
All right, there's not 3 O's, there's only 2, so it's zoology. But these life processes that we're going to go through, I forget how many there are, I think there's 9 of them. These, when we study the animal kingdom, what we're going to be looking at, we'll look at how they accomplish each of these life processes for each of the things we'll be studying. We're going to start with the invertebrates and then move into the vertebrates by the chapter 17.
Yes. She's got a great idea.
We should go to the zoo.
Oh,
Miss Johnson, did you not like the zoo?
Yeah. I haven't been to the zoo in
I was gonna see.
I went to the Bronx Zoo. Honestly, we walked like
Not the Gulf Free Zoo, anyway.
I went to the Bronx Zoo, and it was nice, but at the same time, this poor polar bear in the dead summer of New York was the only animal who was like, y'all stop, like nobody come near me. But then I was like, I wonder in the winter, is he the only animal who's like, yes, yes, yes. And all the other animals are like, bruh, it's cold.
I want you to go to the zoo and like film everything and then do a voiceover for it.
Okay,
The Birmingham Zoo is awesome.
let's all take a road trip to Birmingham.
I know 7th graders are going to the zoo.
Let's go to the world's biggest mall and stuff in whatever state it's in.
The owner wouldn't let you go.
I feel like that's false.
Oh, the owner of here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I thought you meant the zoo.
Yeah.
Don't give me your money and don't bring your kids.
Well, the 7th grade, as far as I know, is going this year. I don't remember when they're going, but they are going to go.
Let's take one.
Actually, we can go by themselves.
We did actually one year, several years ago. It was a long time ago. I don't remember how many years ago it was. But the 7th grade planned a field trip to the zoo, and then somehow the 10th grade went along with them.
Wow.
I don't remember how that happened.
split
All of
up
a sudden,
once
I'm
you
like,
get there.
oh, we're going to the zoo. Okay.
Yeah, just leave
Senior
them
trip.
back when you
Senior trip to the zoo.
We can go
Anyway.
like Costa Rica.
And we go anywhere.
Zoo.
The zoo.
So, no zoo.
Let's go to the Bahamas on our senior trip.
But we will be going to that
Hey.
section at the end of this chapter 17. We'll be doing our first dissection.
Go to the
Okay,
Caribbean.
anyway,
One
moving
of
on. The life processes that we are going to look at with all of the animal kingdom. The first one is movement. Now, most animals do engage in some type of locomotion, which is movement from place to place, meaning that they are motile during some form of their life cycle. Most animals are mobile. There are, however, a few animals that are what we call sessile. Sessile means they are fixed permanently to some object.
Miss Fresh,
You too?
T-shirt for
Yeah, just put on my desk.
Cash. Okay, good one.
So good. All right, so there are some animals, actually, that remain sessile. We don't think of animals being sessile very much, but there are some, like sponges are sessile, a hydra are sessile. Many of the organisms we're talking about, the animals we're talking about in this chapter, there's quite a few of them that are sessile, meaning they don't really move very much. They do movement within themselves though, like sponges filter feed, and hydra have tentacles that move around.
Barnacles.
Yeah, barnacles remain attached, but they come out of their little shell too, but they don't really move from place to
Those
place very
suckers
much.
are mean.
Are they? I don't know.
They
I've
will-
come into contact with them.
Well, they try to pinch it, but their shells are so sharp.
Yeah.
So if you were like, I've heard way too many stories of people like grabbing on the piers and stuff to try and like climb up, and
And
they're
then
just,
barnacles being.
and then they're literally just like they're so cut up that they almost can't swim back. It's so bad. They'll literally tear to shreds.
Get all this from my dad so we can.
All right.
Get it.
Support.
It's pretty
Some
good.
animals are very small, so they don't require any support, like some worm animals that we will be discussing in this chapter. Larger animals, though, do have a means of support. They either will have an exoskeleton, which means that it is on the outside, right? Usually it's like armor, tough plates covering the outside of the animal. Insects, lobster, crayfish, the arthropods have that exoskeleton. But some animals, they can't have an exoskeleton, basically crush them, so they have some kind of internal support, and then that's called an endoskeleton. And then there's some animals that don't have either one. They might have a system, like we'll talk about sponges that have these little spicules, that's their internal support.
What are they? Octopus? What do they have?
Octopus, they're invertebrates, so they don't have any bones.
None at all. That's kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Although a squid sometimes does have one, like this large, it's not a bone, but it's a rod type thing that gives them their shape. Yeah.
Isn't
It's
What
not
about the
cartilage.
beak?
It's
the
not really
beak of an
cartilage.
octopus is like the only hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not made of bone though. It might be made of
Isn't it like the
plates,
they can fit
thing
through
that's
anything
secreted.
as big as their beak?
Yeah.
That's
Isn't it like they can fit through anything as big as their beak?
Octopus?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
Because
So they're all muscle if they have no bones.
Have you seen it change
It's tissue.
shape?
It's not necessarily muscular
just-
tissue.
it's
but it
just
is
blob.
tissue.
It's just
Have you
blob
seen
with
this
some
thing? No,
Are
only
they
the blob, this
dangerous?
is just blob.
That's
Go through
Are
a
octopus-
that big.
No, they're actually very
It's
shy
changed shape and,
creatures.
like,
They
blend
will
into holes and
avoid
stuff.
the
They're
impact
smart, insane.
as much as possible.
That's why they ink to get away.
Finding Nemo comes up a lot in this chapter.
Yeah.
That and SpongeBob for some reason. We talked about.
under the sea.
Under the sea.
Okay, that was
All right.
Oh,
Anyway, the endoskeleton is an internal system of bones or cartilage. Thirdly, all animals have some type of protective body covering. Now that protective body covering may just be skin, but there are many animals that have things like feathers, or they have scales, or they have a shell, but that is to protect them from their environment. Some of them secrete things from their skin, poisonous substances. I think of like those poisoned frogs, they secrete substance that just a small little bit could kill a man. So that is a protective body covering. The nutrition of animals is important. All animals are heterotrophic, okay? Remember what heterotrophic means?
They eat other stuff.
Yeah, they depend on other organisms, that is correct, for their food.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
cannot make their own energy like plants can, so they are heterotrophic. They must consume food, and that's the intake of food. You have ingestion, digestion, egestion. All of that goes on with all the animals, and we'll go through that when we look at the different groups of animals. Respiration. Respiration, of course, sometimes only occurs at the cellular level, especially in the first few organisms we talked about. They don't really have any structures for respiration like we think of, no lungs to speak of. It just goes through the tissue. The oxygen passes through the tissue. But then you get into organisms that have gills. When they live in the water, they absorb oxygen from the water, and then we'll move into those that have lungs for respiration. Circulation, the circulation is the transport of the material within the animal. They might not have blood, but they could have a similar fluid that moves around in their body, and that really, it either stays within closed vessels. Not all animals have a closed circulatory system, but some do. Or it could be one where it's open and it kind of just washes over the organs, bathes the organs with this fluid, and gives them nutrition that is needed. There is excretion, excretion. That's the elimination of the waste material. They have to have some means of excretion. It might happen on the cellular level. They might not have any special structures for it, but they have to eliminate the waste products because they do consume food, so there's always going to be waste, so that needs to be eliminated. Thank you. Response. Now, that's the ability to really respond to their environment. A stimulus is applied and they can respond to their environment. All organisms except for sponges. Sponges don't really respond. They just sit there.
They're just
It's filter beat.
What are you doing with the sponge?
Yeah, like I said, they're really the only ones that don't have any kind of response, but every other animal does have a response to it. From their external stimuli, they'll respond to the environment. And then finally, reproduction. All animals have to undergo reproduction in order to preserve the species. Continue their life species. They have to have some kind of reproduction. Sometimes it may just be something called regeneration. There are some organisms that you can cut them into pieces, and each piece will become a new organism.
starfish.
Starfish is one of them, yes. Also,
Those are-
No, this.
Right? If you cut off the tail, it'll go back.
that is just part of it. So sometimes regeneration is just growing parts. It's not necessarily a reproduction. Yeah, the tail doesn't become a new lizard, but it can regrow its tail. Same thing with crab claws. They can regenerate their. That's why for crab. Sometimes they just do the claws, like they'll pull the claw off and
It's
they'll throw it back in
stone
the water.
crab.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what kind of
You
crab
have
it was.
to, the claws are so big that you can only take one claw from each crab you get.
Right,
Then you have to throw it back to
You
the
take
crab.
both
right,
claws.
but it regenerates, so
Just
that's.
walk
Yeah,
around
because it
with
can't
gums.
defend itself.
Yeah.
Right, it needs to have at least one. I knew there was some species of crab, but that's what they do. They just pull the claw off and they
And
throw
you
it
can get
back
like
in
a
the water.
bucket of claws.
Yeah.
Jared, the claws are like this big.
Yeah, no, you.
Now, also, there will be, we'll talk about some that reproduce with gametes, so sexual reproduction. There are only a few animals that can undergo asexual reproduction. Most animals have to have some form of sexual reproduction. They also have an embryonic stage or a larval stage, and you'll see that as we go through the different animals, their life cycles. Okay, so these 9 life processes, I want to already make you aware that you are going to have to list them out at some point on a quiz or a test. I think on both, actually, so just be aware of that. Okay, now let's look at some anatomy. There are, we're first going to focus on symmetry, I believe. Yes, symmetry. Now, what do you think of when I see the word symmetrical or symmetry? Anything? You
One
wanna know?
arm on this side, one on this side.
Right, equal halves, right? Usually with symmetry, when we say things are symmetrical, they have equal halves. So there are different types of symmetry, though, in the animal kingdom. First off, there are animals that are asymmetrical. Asymmetrical means that you can't really divide them in half. The sponge, for example, not really a symmetrical thing. It's just sponges are not. They don't move much.
There.
They're just there.
They're just
They're just there.
But they're
with the
not
patty.
square. Okay, they're not little squares.
Aw.
like little like amoebas.
Yeah, I usually can picture it as like it looks like an amoeba, just a little lump of. And some of them aren't really soft and squishy either because they have a system of like these little sharp spicules.
Oh, that's not.
Yeah.
They're like a potato in the sea.
Jared,
See,
the ocean level would be much higher without sponges.
Cucumber.
All right. Now,
The garden, right?
spherical symmetry is the next. If you think of sphere like a ball, right? There's not really sides to it. You can cut it in half anyway, and the 2 halves will be equal. That's spherical symmetry. There's no top or bottom or left or right. There's not really an animal that's a sphere. So the example I gave there was the ovum, which is spherical, but there's not really an animal as an animal that's a
Make
big
it a really
sphere.
fat polar bear. Or a really fat panda bear, you can make it a sphere. Tuck in its legs.
Grow like a blueberry, you know.
Like you're really in the chocolate factory.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that kid, Augustus
Bird
Foote,
is
he was a
ate so much he
sphere.
couldn't fly.
He's a great big greedy nincompoop.
Wait, was it a
Wow.
fat bird?
It was like really fat.
Was it really
It
fat?
just ate so much it couldn't
The
fly.
first one was
It's so weird.
Well, when I was younger, I lived in this apartment complex where somebody had a little, I think it was a miniature
I know what
pinscher
you
dog,
mean. Oh, yeah.
but it was so fat, it looked like basically a football with a nose and a tail. And it had short little stubby legs. I thought I felt so bad for that dog. I'm like, oh, poor
Did he
dog.
walk correctly? He
It
probably
really kind of waddled, but it just was so fat. You know, it was small to begin with, but so it just looked football shaped.
Like a small thing from Wall-E.
I don't get it.
Like the humans from Wall-E.
Oh my
Like
gosh, just
fat
run around on
humans.
this thing.
Oh yeah, because the
No,
robots
because
did
they eat
everything.
each other. But that's just a theory.
A game theory.
Okay. Now, the next type of symmetry is called radial symmetry. Now, radial symmetry is when you can have equal halves. There's a top and a bottom, but there's not really a left and right. A starfish is an example. Like there's a top of a starfish and a bottom of a starfish, but you don't really have left and right distinction in starfish. Hydra is another example. So that is radial symmetry. And it's along its length. It's not a transverse cut, but it's along the length that is cut. The only animals that are radially symmetrical are aquatic animals. So you won't find any land animals with this type of symmetry.
I wrote Lurth instead of like, what am I doing with my life?
So when we were watching that
class.
video, what was it?
To
We were watching that video Monday.
You watched the video?
Oh yeah, you weren't
We
here.
watched
That's why.
Marcus.
And he said that like that
I
like
just wrote boot.
it just sounded kind
Instead
of
of bottom.
okay. So are alligators dinosaurs? Question mark.
Are they dinosaurs? Well, they're lizards.
I love them.
Because like
Which dinosaurs were lizards?
I am wearing
I was like waiting for him to say that like they like he like came from that like or like you know.
No. Because it's a Christian. I mean, the idea is that alligators may, they are considered living dinosaurs, crocodiles, alligators, Komodo dragons, those types of things, because they are reptiles like dinosaurs were. Now, the dinosaurs did all die off during the flood,
Oh.
yes. But most of them did. I don't want to say all of them, but I would say most of them. But you do wonder, where do all these tales of dragons come from?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, he did talk about it.
They said we were on the ice, but I told them that was impossible.
Where did that even
I really
how are
You don't
people
get
still
to taste
stuck on that? Like
It's
every time I see like the
also
Loch
the
Ness videos on TLC or like the Bigfoot.
The big
I love-
black kill me.
I love the Finding Hitler.
Bigfoot,
That one's
really?
fantastic.
Bigfoot.
They still think Hitler's alive, and it's so funny.
What?
Everyone says that. Like someone I know, some relative saw a big
Did they have
Saw a
one?
beacon.
Did they have one for Walt Disney? I bet
A
they did.
beacon.
Anyway,
Like things that are real
how do we get on this?
Yeah, they had
Okay, I
this
saw
show on
Alabama.
Discovery Channel that had like finding the Bigfoot on. And they
I wanted
actually
to talk about
found
that
some
video where that guy,
science.
It's
you
not
know, like
one of
old
the
guy has like a rat
fake
with writing
documentaries.
on him, and they
No,
think that
What?
everyone
it was
has
actually
cool.
really
I was like,
real. It actually did shake the ship.
I heard it.
All right.
Or whatever. Like,
Bilateral symmetry is the last type. Bilateral means that there is a top and bottom and a left and right. Most animals have bilateral symmetry. Most animals that you think of: dogs, cats, fish, birds, reptiles, mammals.
water bears.
What's the
What's
most?
the best thing?
Water bear?
Water bear is like the most invincible thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing.
They can survive in space.
Watch out for the sea bear.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah.
It's
I want to try to see right now.
That's it. Oh,
And what he's done, and then he's like, "Well, what attracts the sea? What was like a rhinoceros or something?" He's like,
the sea right now.
and he's like, "Oh,
It seems the sound of a
the
sea bear attack. I told you, we always end up with SpongeBob.
That sea bear underwear on.
Squidward was dumb. It was his fault for shaking the maracas just like the sombrero on and the
With that,
cheese.
no, with the. Yeah.
Where the heck upside down?
Anyway, so that is bilateral symmetry. There's a tail and a head, and like I said, front, left, right, front, top, bottom. Okay, so those are the types of symmetry in the animal kingdom.
I don't know.
No, I'm still.
Oh, it's still writing.
Jerry said you
Okay.
I was like, this is not correct.
It's like doggo and it's like pupper or whatever. It's like what's a doggo and it's like it's
Oh,
a big old pupper and it's like what's a pupper? It's a tiny doggo.
Exactly. That's the funniest thing.
I had a dream last night, and this old woman had a dog in this like at Walmart, and she was oh Lane, you were in my dream.
Oh
And
yeah.
but her dog's name was Doggo. And so she's like, Doggo, stop it! And stuff. And then I walked by and I was like about to go up and pet him, and then I realized that was rude. But then I kept walking, and then she was like, hey, do you want to play with my dog? And I was like, yes.
That sounds like she's gonna kidnap you.
And then I woke up. It was so
Well, good, you didn't get kidnapped.
I wasn't gonna get kidnapped. She was a nice lady.
Whenever you continue that
They like,
I was in my
Y'all
yard,
have
like
groceries?
laying around, like I was like by the door, and I have a cat.
Okay, so correct.
It's a blonde.
Asymmetrical, right? That's the sponge. The hydra, radial, the spherical. That's like I said, just an ovum. And then bilateral, they show frog right there. So those are the types of symmetry. Okay, now these animal anatomy terms. These are directional terms, you would call them, concerning anatomy. You will see them quite a bit through the next few chapters, so you need to be familiar with what they mean. So whenever you see the word cephalic, cephalic means concerning the head. It's from the Greek word for head. Because they'll talk about cephalization with worms, and you'll see that word. Caudal is concerning the tail. Then when we get to fish, we'll talk about caudal fin. It's the tail fin. Once again, it's from this font comes from the Latin word for tail.
What is it? Switch language.
Well, it's always Greek or Latin typically. I don't really see it from other languages. Okay, anterior toward the front or forward.
you were.
Okay.
You think I'm rude?
It's you.
After anterior, then we have posterior, is toward the rear or further back. You have dorsal, which is near the upper surface or the back, the dorsal surface. Like in fish, they have dorsal fins. That's on the upper surface. And then the opposite of that is ventral. Ventral is near the lower surface or the front.
This is gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it in my bones.
These will be on your test. This one.
Justin Timberlake becomes a dad, and that's what he produces for. I'm sorry, what did you just say?
All right, lateral is toward the
JT becomes a
side.
dad, and that's what he produces for. He's always been a dad.
I'm
And lateral is toward the side, and then medial is toward the middle. So lateral and medial.
I was born for dad to make dad jokes.
All of these words besides cephalic, by the way. Guys, all of the words besides cephalic do come from the Latin, but meaning the words that we're talking about, front, side, And then midline, or you can call it a median, sometimes it's called median, or a medial, you might see that word. But that is, or no, not medial, median. The midline or the median divides it into left and right. And the last one is transverse. The transverse is perpendicular to the midline. So you have the midline and the transverse is this way. So midline is this way, transverse is perpendicular. The next diagram is going to show you all of these directions, and they make a little more sense then.
This is big. It's big.
It's like this funny when I was just watching this, it's like, sure you can get people on if it comes squeaky clean, no hands. We should, yes, we should put on the Olympic website, like this school. We should do like the training video for SpongeBob, but up this school.
It's a horse.
Yes, there we go. There's the directions. Dorsal, ventral, so dorsal is toward the upper surface, dorsal, ventral is the lower surface. Midline, as you can see, is down the center, divided into left and right. And then you have the transverse line that's perpendicular to that. So you have the midline that's left and right. Transverse is like, cuts it into top and bottom, I guess you could think. Medial is in the center, lateral toward the sides, anterior front, posterior rear, cephalic head, caudal tail. And those are your directions. Okay, and this is the final slide, I believe. Yes, classification in the animal kingdom. Now, the animal kingdom, this is not a formal classification, but the animal kingdom is divided into two groups. The invertebrates, which are the animals without bones or backbones or cartilage, anything like that. They can have an exoskeleton, the invertebrates, but they don't have any internal bones or cartilage. And then you have the vertebrates, which we classify as the animals with backbones. Now, your vertebrates include your more common animals, probably when you think of animals. Fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and birds. Those are the vertebrates. But did you know that over 95% of the animal kingdom are invertebrates? At least 95%. That's what that little circle chart represents. The green portion are the vertebrates.
What's the deal?
All the other colors represent invertebrates.
Is that because of insects?
All the types of invertebrates. The orange are all the insects, yes.
Yeah.
The orange color is insects. As you can see, they outnumber animals quite a bit.
Oh, boy.
The other animals quite a bit. But then the blue, I believe, are your, the reddish color are other arthropods, because the insects are arthropods, so the reddish color are arthropods. The blue are your sea creatures, the ones we're going to be talking about, like sponges and hydra and those types. Mollusks, we'll be talking about those. Yes. And then the mammals and such. Now these are animals. Remember, humans are not animals. Keep that in mind.
Those green ones need to start consuming the orange ones more. Less bug bites.
Yeah, that is the end. Okay.
What?
Oh, okay.
So that I know I have that confusing voice that you can do.
It just is, because I said something.
Alright, no homework on this lesson. You will have homework, of course.
Because as soon as you said that, I was like, yes. I knew that.
No, it is. I went to go take a shower and then.
Because I think trying to get the answers.
And then somebody camera also.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I feel pretty good with my grades so far. You guys
Who graded my speech quiz?
But I'm kind of scared.
What'd I get?
Zach.
Oh,
The Office moment.
I graded yours.
No.
Did anyone else?
And we're gonna
Did
end.
anyone